I've always been so defined by my intellect, my language, my articulation, and now sometimes I can see the words hanging in front of me and I can't reach them and I don't know who I am and I don't know what I'm going to lose next.
Because I said I consider the role for which I won my Oscar to be my best performance to date. You both disagreed. Is there a performance of yours that stands out as your best, that you regard as your personal best?
I guess I'd say Far From Heaven.
Oh.
I love Far From Heaven.
Please, please, Mama, please don't make me. Please, please don't make me, Mama. Please don't. Please, please don't.
What happened, Jane? Under the house?
She made me. She made me kiss her. No.
Joe, I didn't even know you're hardly settled down. I rather expected to find your Oscar unpacked and on display.
It is.
Could we see it?
It's right over here. My favorite child until I have this one, anyway. And it's right next to it, of course, is my next favorite child, which is Paul's Nosker.
Wait a minute. Nosker? That's one I never heard of.
Well, this is the award that Charlie Schnee and Bobby Wise gave Paul last year because he wasn't nominated for somebody of their liking.
Well, may I help you?
18 years of shit boxes and packing and moving and new neighbors and ugly bases and now this cat piss. Oh, you seen that place?
For Blue Sky, I mean, it came as kind of as a shock, really, because that was a film that hadn't really even received a general release. I mean, it was in a very strange situation in that the studio that made it, Orion, had folded and had been bought up by Multimedia or something. I can't even remember who it was. And it had just sat on a shelf in a bank vault for several years before it was released. And in the meantime, Tony Richardson, the director, had passed away. And, you know, there was a lot of time had gone by. And then suddenly it was released and there was all this attention. But it was never really a film that, how can I say this? It didn't follow the kind of natural, you know, normal trajectory of a movie that's being positioned for Academy Awards. And we all know everything that goes into that. So this kind of just was this dark horse little movie that most people only saw in the early days of DVD when the Academy would send DVDs out. Because I think it only played in a couple theaters. And then to have the work recognized, it was kind of shocking. It was wonderful. It was surprising, though.
Oh, I'm bad for people. I don't mean to be, but I can't help myself. So I'm being generous to you, Don. Kinder than I've ever been to anybody before. But I can't be much longer. So go. Leave me. Can leave me, can't you?
Now, there was such a furor that year that I did not receive the award. That's when they hired Price Waterhouse the next year.
Is that right?
Because there were so many write-in votes that I should have had it.
And then the next year you did win, right?
If I had, it didn't matter what I played the next year. It's consolation prize. Because Dangerous is not a very good movie, you know, really. Not very good.
The Best Actress of the Year is Bette Davis for her performance in Dangerous.
Back without this, heaven help you.
Next thing I know...
Please go on, Mr. Byers.
He was squeezing my throat with his hand. And he pushed me down on the pinball machine. And he ripped my shirt. He lifted my skirt. He pulled down my underpants really, really hard. You know?
So, after the studio's resistance and your own conviction that you had failed, one morning they announced your name as an Academy Award nominee.
Yeah.
Good feeling?
Oh, yeah, it was great.
And the Oscar
wonderful
experience when you won, please.
You just think, my name, my name, my name, my name. And then they say your name, and then it's bingo. And you go, and there's a prize. And, you know, you're not thinking about some deserving performance. You're really, it's just basic, it's just primal greed.
You're stubborn, aren't you?
I'm sorry.
Michael, I heard about your fight at the post office this afternoon. It was about me, wasn't it?
Why, no,
Oh, yes, it was. May Brandon called me up and told me all about it. You gasped and said I was nothing but a silly little coquette, didn't he?
You made me very, very happy. And thank you.
Well, it's nice to see another, isn't it?
It certainly is.
He hasn't changed very much in all this time, has he?
Well, I hope not.
No, he hasn't.
Baby, please speak to me. Say something.
What is there to say?
Are you seem angry with me, my darling? You must be strong. Tomorrow will be in our house. I'm sure of it. We'll find a place to sleep and leave tomorrow.
What's the use?
What's the use? You'll drive me mad.
I really was scared to death to come to Hollywood and assist at the ceremony, because my reaction, whether I had won an Oscar or not, I think I would have fainted. And so I preferred to faint at home instead of in front of so many people over there.
Well, I had a charming letter from him the other day. I wrote him and sent him a photograph of a scene from the play and told him all about it, that I was coming to New York and expected to be very famous and have a theater of my own so I could play his Cleopatra until I was too old for it, when I'd do Mrs. Warren's profession. Of course, I didn't know whether he'd ever answer my letter or not, but here's his letter. May I read it to you? It's never left me a moment since I received it. I even sleep with it under my pillow.
I've never been to an Academy Award. Now, if I sit here in my chair, where I must be honest with myself so that I'll progress and my character will improve, why don't I go to the Academy Awards? It has to be that I'm afraid I'm going to lose. I don't approve of my attitude of not going. I think that's cheap of me. Second rate not to go.
Her mother left some money for her with me, and I got it here, and it's a big wad, too.
Really?
Yes, it's real. And I had intended keeping it myself. But every once in a while, my conscience goes crazy, and then I have to do the right thing. Well, anyhow, when she was dying, she says to me, she says, "Min, when my Nancy grows up to be a girl, I want you to see that she goes to a young ladies' school."
My mother said that?
Oh, will you stop horning in?
My brothers and sisters screwed me royal. Because after my dad had killed himself, we were out on the streets. And the neighbors would let them stay over, but only if I didn't tag along, you know. So I steered clear. But I knew they didn't have any money, you know. I was having a hook anyway, so I just always made sure they had new clothes and cigarettes and stuff like that.
They had to make up new awards to give you at that point because you won everything, including the Academy Award. And again, was that a big change in your career, or were you kind of surprised that maybe it wasn't?
No, that was definitely, yeah, that was a game changer. Yeah. And it was not necessarily all for the positive, because it's one of those moments where you can't believe this is happening to you and it's amazing, and then it happens. And then afterwards, you're kind of inundated with offers. I started feeling a lot of pressure, and I started not trusting my own gut anymore.
Children? How many?
One.
Liv?
Yes, he is.
He is? What kind of a fellow is your son?
He's a great man.
And he was bewildered and he was upset because there I was with an Oscar, and they didn't know what to do with me because I didn't fit into any of the patterns that they had for their big stars like Garbo and Jean Harlow and Norma Shearer. And he said, I know what we're going to do. He said, you know, we don't know whether you have any sex appeal. And I said, well, frankly, I don't either. And he said, well, I tell you, we're going to find out, and I'm going to take it on myself to have a wonderful white dress made for you, like that clinging jersey dress, the white jersey that Norma Shearer wore in A Soul. A very wonderful, revealing dress, and I'm going to pay for that dress, and then we're going to take a test of you in it. And I said, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to save you a lot of money because there's not going to be anything under that dress that's going to be of any interest to you or the rest of the world. And so he said, well, that being the case, we'll just have to keep you acting all the time you're on the screen.
And there was Rocket Man trying to get out. And here comes the cliff. And just before the car went off the cliff, he jumped free. And all the kids cheered. But I didn't cheer. I stood right up and started shouting, "This isn't what happened last week. Have you all got amnesia? They just cheated us. This isn't fair. He didn't get out of the cock-a-doodie car."
I was really surprised when I won that year because the competition was really, really stiff. Meryl was nominated, Angelica Houston, Joanne Woodward, and Julia Roberts for Pretty Woman. You know, so it was like such a stiff competition.
Yeah.
And so I really felt like when I won, I should have worn a mask and carried a gun, you know, basically, because it just felt so unreal to win.
You dirty bird.